unanimous consent that we vitiate the quorum call?
Without objection.
Thank you, Madam. Well, Madam President, I am delighted to rise today to salute a member of my committee staff who has made literally invaluable contributions to not just the Congress, but to our nation, and not just for a couple of months or years, but for literally decades. Greg Dotson, the Chief Counsel for the Senate Committee on Environment and Public Works, which I'm privileged to chair, will be retiring on September 30th following a distinguished career in service to this country of ours. On this occasion, I want to take note of his remarkable legacy and extraordinary service to the people of America. As many of my colleagues will attest, true leaders in this body and true leaders elsewhere are only as good as the team that works for them. I've always said I hire people smarter than me, and that's one of the reasons I've had some success. But good leaders, the best leaders, are always looking for the best people they can find. And for many of us who are elected officials in this body and others, those teams are staff members who too often toil in the background and rarely recognized publicly for their service. And while all the members of the Environment and Public Works Committee staff that I'm privileged to lead are wonderful public servants, there are sometimes rare individuals who stand out as having made an extraordinary impact on the American people and on this country as a whole. Greg Dotson is one of those exceptional people. He has emerged as an invaluable leader in the effort to address the urgent threat of climate change and has dedicated his life to that vital calling. Greg first joined this mission as a staff member, a staffer to Congressman Henry Waxman in 1996. Greg followed Congressman Waxman to the House Oversight Committee and later the House Energy and Commerce Committee, which Henry led. During his nearly 20 years in the House, Greg Dotson helped lead the team that produced the American Clean Energy and Security Act of 2009, a landmark, comprehensive climate change and energy bill that passed the House of Representatives in June of 2009. He has worked on a number of major legislative achievements, including the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act of 2009, the Energy Independence and Security Act of 2007, the Energy Policy Act of 2005, the Safe Drinking Water Act amendments of 1996, and many, many more. Greg also spearheaded vital congressional oversight and investigative efforts with environmental significance, including high-profile inquiries into political interference with climate science, the BP Deepwater Horizon disaster, and the energy market abuses of Enron. After his illustrious service in the House of Representatives, Greg went on to share his wisdom and passion with young people who are eager to follow in his footsteps and protect our planet. In 2017, he became a professor in environmental policy at the University of Oregon's Environmental and Natural Resources Law Center, a role which has enabled him to take the lessons of his congressional service and use them to help inform the next generation of legal scholars and environmentalists. It was from there that he came to the Environment and Public Works Committee in early 2021 when I was becoming chairman of the committee. And when we began a new Congress that year with a new Senate majority and a new president who was committed to action on addressing climate change and our nation's infrastructure needs while creating lots of jobs, we knew that EPW needed a seasoned, thoughtful counsel who could help guide our committee through this historic time. Greg was just the man for the job. As chief counsel, he has played an invaluable role in helping negotiate and craft the transformational bipartisan infrastructure law enacted last year, working to find common ground with our Republican colleagues, including remarkably strong climate investments in our infrastructure legislation. He also led the charge on efforts to boost electric vehicle infrastructure, clean up our air and our water, and protect communities who are facing the worst consequences of climate crisis. In addition, Greg played a leading role in efforts to boost the clean energy revolution for our automotive industry. He worked with me to lay out a vision for how the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency could adopt standards to reduce greenhouse gas emissions in the automotive industry and eliminate tailpipe pollution from new cars by 2035. The letter we ultimately sent to EPA Administrator Michael Regan was met with applause from both auto manufacturers and environmental groups alike. And as someone who's been here for a few years, Mr. President, that doesn't happen every day. A few months after we unveiled our proposal, the Biden administration followed up by announcing a new plan that adopted our recommendations for how to reduce greenhouse gas emissions from cars, from trucks, while embracing zero-emission vehicles. And by calling for half the new vehicles sold in the U.S. to be zero-emission vehicles by the year 2030 and adopting a multi-pollutant approach as we recommended, our nation will reap major health benefits for millions of Americans while accelerating market trends to the clean cars of the future. This was Greg's vision, and it will remain his legacy for years and years to come. And just a few weeks ago, Greg was here on the Senate floor with Mary Frances Repko, myself, and others on our team, our colleagues as well, on the floor for the crowning achievement of his decades of government service on climate crisis, the Inflation Reduction Act. Greg's countless hours of work were on that landmark bill that were critical to making possible the largest investment in climate in our nation's history. Let me just say that again. The Inflation Reduction Act. Greg's countless hours of work were on that landmark bill, and they were critical to making possible the largest investment in climate in our nation's history. He didn't stop there either, going on to work tirelessly on the methane emission reduction program, methane, which is many, many times more harmful than carbon dioxide with respect to climate. But an initiative that will have significant impact in our efforts to combat the threat of climate change and safeguard our planet for future generations. Throughout all of his dedicated service to our nation and the environment, Greg has been just as committed to his family. All of us here in the Senate, and indeed our nation as a whole, are grateful to his wife, Janine, and to their two children, Dahlia and Bryce. I believe they are today in Oregon, their home in Oregon. We want to thank them, the three of them, for generously sharing with us the time and the extraordinary talents of their husband and their father. And when he wasn't here in Washington, D.C., working tirelessly to make history and improve the lives of American people, Greg was at home in an equally important role as husband and dad. Those are maybe the two most important roles that all of us can hope for ourselves, and also hope that he can now begin to devote even more time to them in the days ahead. Greg's public service follows his own family's legacy. His father was a Navy man like my own dad and many of my uncles. That dedication to greater good, to the betterment of society, which ran through his family, is a beautiful family legacy that Greg continues today. I am deeply grateful for his sage counsel, and know that he will continue to make this world a better place as he returns to teach at the University of Oregon. And so in closing, I say to Greg something that we like to say in the Navy. When people do extraordinary things with their lives, we say, bravo, Zulu. Bravo, Zulu. So Greg, to you and your family, bravo, Zulu. Thank you, my friend, and I bid you fair winds and a following sea as you prepare to set off in the next set of adventures that lie ahead. And I know that many members of Congress, along with their staffs, both past and present, join me in this salute. With that, I note the absence of a quorum.
Clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Baldwin.
Mr. President, I would ask unanimous consent that the quorum call be vitiated.
Without objection.
Yeah. Mr. President, I have count of 9 requests for committees to meet during today's session of the Senate. They have been approved by both the majority and minority leaders.
Duly noted.
Thank you, Mr. President. With that, I note the absence of a quorum.
Clerk, call the roll.
Ms. Baldwin.